Ready? Go.
We can see from a map of Florida the hundreds of miles of coastline and beaches that we have on both coasts, the Atlantic side and the Gulf side. Florida, coupled with the climate, it's a very large source of revenue for the state of Florida, so we have to protect our beaches. The purpose of this lab is to study the beaches on both the west coast and the east coast, especially the faces of the beach, the angle of the beach face itself. So looking at this sand here, and if you've ever been to both coasts, you know this sand came from the west coast of Florida, from Port Charlotte, I believe. It's very fine and it's all quartz. This is from Pompano Beach. Different color, different size, and there's other differences. The angle of the beach face, the sloping part of the beach, in Pompano is about 6 degrees, and in the west coast it's maybe 3, a little easier to walk on that. So what we want to do is study both beach faces, and we're going to do this using a set of sieves and some balances and standard procedures. First thing we need to do is know that the beaches are made of sand, and there is a scale of sand size. Now sand basically is anything from 1/16 to 2 millimeters. So that's a range of 32 times. So we break this down to smaller increments using this Wentworth scale of sand sizes and sediment sizes. So I'll get this one here. So very fine sand is sand from 1/16 to 1/8 of a millimeter. Fine sand would be 1/8 to 1/4 of a millimeter. It's called fine sand. Medium sand is 1/4 to 1/2 of a millimeter. Coarse sand would be 1/2 to 1 millimeter, and very coarse sand would be 1 to 2 millimeters. Above that would be gravel, granules and pebbles, and below the sand are silt and clay, real fine sand. The beaches are made of sand, but all these different sizes. So how do we study it? Well, the first thing we did is get some sand from the west coast and started a procedure, and we ran the procedure through sieves that what you're going to do with the east coast, and we're going to compare the two and try to answer questions as to why the sand is different from one coast to the next. So the tools that we're going to use, we'll come over here, and so the procedure we use is to we employ a set of sieves. That's a stack of screens of varying sizes, with the larger size on the top and the smaller size on the bottom. So if we look at this very coarse sand, you can see the size of the openings here. If we go down to medium size, you can see the openings are much smaller. The thinking we have is that we'll weigh the sand and run them through the sieves and find out how much percentage of each size from each of the coasts of Florida. Another thing we'll need is a balance to weigh the sand and get percentages. So normally what we will do then is to come over here, and we have these balances, and these balances are accurate to 2 grams, plus or minus 2 grams. And then we take our sand sample, and we'll take the sand sample, and following the procedure, that's what we're doing, following the procedure, we need to weigh this sand sample. One of the problems we have, it's important to examine our equipment when you do a lab and make sure it's in good order and in the right, in this case, the right order of sand sizes. And maybe a good idea to look at each one and make sure the screens are in good shape and not torn. And we did that. So there's no sand in these sieves right here. We have to put our sand sample from the Pompano Beach sand. We've already done it for the West Coast sand, and we're going to compare the two. Well, the balance is on 0 grams, and we have to somehow get the sand weighed. And it's not going to just pour it on the top. We'll use these weighing boats. And so if I put the weighing boat on, It says 7 grams. So the problem is the sand sample is going to weigh 7 grams too much, or we have to remember the number 7. Well, these balances have a 0 feature where you can press the 0 button and it says 0. We tricked the balance to thinking that there's nothing on it. Let me take this off. Minus 7 grams. Okay, so now we can pour the sand sample in here and we'll get the weight of the sample and record it in the lab manual. Okay, we're always very careful. Now this sand has been gathered and cleaned with fresh water, otherwise we have to get the salt out of it, and it'll mess up our sieves if not. So, all right, so 308 grams, so we're going to record that on our lab manual for the Pompano Beach sand. Now we don't want too much sand here and then be sieving all day long, and we don't want too little sand, otherwise we're not going to get meaningful results. So the 300 grams is a pretty good size. Now we have to follow standard procedures, and maybe not what you think. Then just pour this in here and run it through here. If you're following the standard procedure, you see we'll have to weigh each sieve and record it before we put the sand in. Let's do that. Let's see, I'll go back to 0. Okay, this is a gravel, 229 grams.
We're 2 millimeter sieve. And record it in the first column A, mass of sieve.
Yeah, the mass of the sieve. And this is gravel. And the next one is very coarse sand, 1 to 2 millimeters. Let's see what that is. 161 grams. We're going to record that. The next one should be coarse sand, 1/2 to 1 millimeter. Let's see what that weighs. 137 grams. We record that. Medium sand, 1/4 to 1/2 a millimeter, 142 grams.